Welcome back to Tech for Thought, where we break down the latest AI, media, tech, and finance. Last episode, we did a side-by-side comparison of VO3 and Sora, and then talked a little bit about Apple's Illusion of Thinking publication, and then Meta's crackdown of AI content, just to name a few things. Today, we're pivoting kind of bigger picture, macro perspective, post-labor economy. So as automation and AI edge out traditional jobs, how does society adapt? So we're going to cover new economic models from UBI, Universal Basic Income, and then just what happens when gig work isn't cutting it out anymore. So the first article we're going to talk about is how AGI could erase human employment, essentially. So there's new research that warns about this. Recent AGI economics paper warns about how automation could collapse human wages, triggering mass unemployment and overwhelming social services. A few key points. AGI pushes human labor wages near total zero, consolidating wealth with AI capital owners. Without intervention, economies may collapse. Proposed solutions include UBI, Universal Basic Income, and the progressive AGI capital taxes and cooperative ownership of AGI wealth. And so I guess the first question here, when you're thinking about AGI and jobs being obsolete for everyone, essentially, do we think that redistributing AI generated wealth is fair or necessary for something like this?
First, I want to preface this with I don't believe we're anywhere near AGI. People say 2 to 3 years, people say 10 years. The current pace that we're going and the fact that we're focusing on LLMs, I don't think we're even, if we continue on this course, I don't think we'll ever reach AGI. And that's a point that Jan LeCun, who currently is with, I believe, Meta, who's considered one of the godfathers of AI, basically said that if we continue with LLMs, we're not going to come even close to AGI, because he brings up one of these points where a 4-year-old has lived for basically 16,000 hours and already has more information than some of the biggest LLMs out there. And he basically says that if we continue with the LLMs, we're not going to get to AGI because the value of visual input and learning cannot be achieved with current training of LLMs with text. And so he was saying that we need to go, if we want to even be in the conversation of human, he likes to call human based AI, we need to start focusing on physics-based learning, so like visual input, etc., hearing, etc., because the amount of learnings children and humans get from visual inputs and like hearing and smelling and things like that cannot be understated. But in terms of AI generated wealth being fair or necessary, eventually, maybe in like 15 years, if we get close to AGI, sure. I think that it is fair because once we get to the point where AGI starts thinking like humans, a lot of jobs will definitely go away. That's just a fact because
Mhm.
people at the top are, unfortunately, as we've seen, very greedy and
Want to cut costs.
because humans are mm, sometimes a company's biggest expense. So
Mhm.
to help the shareholders, like what a lot of people love to do, it's not AGI replacing jobs, it's people replacing jobs. And I've said this before, I'd rather have human AI augmentation and joining. So I think that, let's say AGI happens and people lose their jobs, we're definitely going to need something like AGI unless we want millions and millions of homeless people.
Mhm.
Um, and that's it's just like a fact of life, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I don't even think at that scale of homelessness, I think that's where you kind of see a darker side of society. And this has happened in the past. You analyze any society, civilization, whatever in the past. once there's such a large gap and so much homelessness and so much poverty, you see people reach a limit. And I think I personally think that if we get to a point where everybody's jobs are being replaced, I just think it creates more of a problem than anything. And I know there's a lot of studies around it and a lot of studies around UBI, and I know we'll get to that here in a moment. But I just think AGI, first off, like you said, I think it is so much further away than people are. The people that are claiming that it's 2 to 3 years away, I think are just trying to get clicks, honestly. I don't think those people are, they've either not studied at all, they don't know anything about the topic, or they purposely are just trying to get clicks. I think it's quite obvious that this is going to take a minimum of 10 years. It really depends on where focus goes, how many people start pointing in that direction. But even then, I don't think, even if we start aiming toward AGI in the next 10 years, which we won't have the technology prepared until at least 10 years, right? To even start moving in that direction, especially for physics-based learning like that. I very seriously doubt that's even done in the next 5 years. That might not even get started in the next 5 years, and it's going to take a lot of time for that. So I don't think we need to worry about AGI anytime soon. And honestly, it's super difficult to tell what is going to happen when AI and stuff starts taking jobs on a scale like that. I think at the end of the day, the corruption at a high level, like you're mentioning, it's not going to change. If it's replacing tons of jobs, like you said, that's they feel like that human labor is going to be more inconsistent than AI, right? Because AI can run constantly, it doesn't get exhausted, it's not going to get distracted, all of that, right? So any of
Hmm.
your people's jobs that you think can be done, I mean, like anything in finance, they're going to feel like, oh, well, this can be easily tracked, right? I could just have
Hmm.
AI do all of my financial management and analysis and all of that, right? Like
Hmm.
that's pretty straightforward. So jobs like that, obviously it's not straightforward. I don't mean like that, but I mean,
It's
you
easy
know,
to automate in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even have the infrastructure. We don't even have the power needed to power something
Yeah.
as strong as AGI.
Hmm.
And I mean, the only reason why people are hyping up AGI so much, and we have people like Dario Amodei who loves doing stuff like this, saying 2 to 3 years, 50% of white collar jobs being wiped out, is because these companies aren't seeing the returns based on the amount of investment that they've done with these artificial intelligence research. Everything that they've
yeah.
done, they're not seeing the types of returns that they thought they would see. So by artificially keeping their stock prices and investors to keep pouring in money, they think that eventually, sure, we can get AGI uh, and get the types of returns um, to the point where everything they said was true.
I think
So,
if I'm an investor and I'm looking at a company that's failed in understanding AI, its capacity, and how much to invest in it, and just the poor strategy around it, if I see them fail with the strategy around something, I don't want to say as simple as AI, but in comparison to something that complex, if they can't nail down AI, which is like the foundational level of AGI, I just think that there's no way as an investor I would want to invest in that company if they're just like, oh well, AI was a little bit difficult, but watch, we're gonna invest in this level, to where it doesn't make sense to me if I'm an investor. I don't think I would want to
well, I mean,
invest in
it's
that
it's
company.
it's the hype train. You see other people investing, and then
Exactly.
you kind of have
FOMO.
doubts because you want to get in on, you want to get a
Hmm.
piece of the pie. And so by people overly inflating the amount of money they're generating or the amount of, because these are supposedly the experts, right? So by people and these are the people who have a platform to like say these things. So when you have people overly inflating the capabilities that they have and the capabilities they will get to, you as an investor want that money coming back to you as a return. And so you're like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I should invest. And so they keep investing, et cetera, et cetera. These companies get to keep their budgets up. And then eventually they think like, hey, okay, maybe the our investment will or our return will reach the amount of investment we made. So
Yeah,
So what do you
what are we gonna
think,
do?
what level of AI does it have to be to reach a point where we need AGI?
I'd say about 10, 11. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm
What?
not too sure.
I mean, Jan LeCun is right. I mean, we saw with the Apple article where these reasoning models, even with the simplest of problem, the reasoning model had a harder time solving the Tower of Hanoi problem versus the standard LLM. And then, sure, at the medium and higher levels, the reasoning models did better, but they still didn't solve the problems. And even when given the algorithms to solve the problem, they still couldn't. So these reasoning models aren't actually reasoning, they're just large pattern recognition models. And if
Exactly.
they
Yeah, and
see a
we talked about
pattern,
that last week.
and if they see a pattern that they've never seen before, they're not going to be able to solve it. Just like with in my article where I talked about software engineering, these models aren't actually creating anything new. They're just
Exactly.
regurgitating the code that they've been trained on. So sure, they're good at basic scaffolding, basic templates of these problems. Like if I tell it to create a HTTP based trigger function app in Azure, sure, it'll create the structure and give me a example to kind of edit, but it's not going to give me something that'll create something completely new. It's not going to come up with a completely new algorithm, right?
Hmm.
That it's never seen before. And if it does, it's just it might not work.
Mm,
So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I don't think we have anything to worry about for now, um, or anytime in the next 10 years. Not only
Hmm.
do we not have the infrastructure, we just we're not even in the ballpark of what we need to do to get to AGI if we keep focusing on LLMs, increasing the model size. But yeah, I mean, coming back to the actual question here, let's say we do get AGI. I don't think AI generated wealth redistribution is unfair. It's
Hmm.
definitely fair and will be necessary if we don't want to see millions of people homeless.
Yeah, I
There's
guess.
definitely going to have to be some type of balance. Go ahead, Aiden.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, what is AGI and what's the difference between AGI, AI, and why is AGI an issue when it comes to potentially erasing human employment altogether?
Yeah, so AGI is essentially artificial general intelligence. Uh, and Jan LeCun says he doesn't like that word. He likes to call it human-based intelligence. But essentially what it is it's a basically an artificial intelligence that thinks just like a human. So it reasons, it understands, it kind of like the current reasoning models where they have the when you're like the folks watching, when you're using a reasoning model and it like walks you through the steps of it reasoning, AGI essentially actually does the reasoning and thinks like a human. So it can think of new ideas, it can come up with new ideas, it can take a complex problem and come up with a bunch of new solutions that might work and stuff like that. So um, one of the biggest issues is that if we do get to AGI where it can think like human, then what's the reason of paying a human that sleeps, that doesn't work 24/7 like an AGI can or might? So I mean there's a bunch of ethics around that, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that's essentially what AGI is.
I think getting to the point of AGI, whenever we do get there, I think it's just the ethical implication of anything around AI and how much it's growing and where it's at technologically now. It is it comes down to, I think we might have touched on this in a previous episode, but it kind of brings us back to this age of deeper philosophy, I think, because these concepts within society are so new and so nuanced that I think it's going to take a whole new level of study to figure out a balance. I just like ethically, morally, and it's going to really put into question how far these top 2% kind of people want to go with it. The Jeff Bezoses, the Elon
Hmm.
Musks,
George
you
Soros.
know, yeah, all the people that do own, what's his name over Disney. I mean, you look at Disney and how many companies they own, it's insane, right? So then you start wondering, okay, well, how far are these people and these companies going to take advantage of this? And what's the kind of breaking point for the other 98% of society, right? Is there a point where, because I think AGI would be, a great supplemental thing here and there, especially you're talking about it being able to exceed humans' cognitive abilities. I mean,
Yeah.
real creators and scientists and stuff like that, they're gonna look into how we can combine the human brain with this. They're already talking about it.
Yeah.
So, then you start wondering about that aspect of it and what are the ethics behind the level of depth in combining the human brain and, AGI. So it's going to create so many new problems and opportunities, of course. But I do think it's going to bring us back to this point of deeper philosophy and studying on philosophy. Because right now, I mean, there's not, we're not like a lot of these ancient civilizations that were really big on philosophy. Like, you can't really think of modern philosophers, really. And I
Right.
think a lot of people that claim to be philosophers now are basically just people that studied
The
old
past
philosophy and are
philosophers.
like,
Yeah.
I'm a philosopher. No, you're not. You're just regurgitating other philosophers. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting. And,
Hmm.
we're going to be alive during this. So I
Yeah.
think us talking about this is really big.
Hmm.
We're going to see the evolution of this. This is the smartphones of our era, right? This is going to be something that's new that we're gonna have to figure out how to work with, and that can be scary. And
Yeah. I mean,
frankly, I don't know
mhm.
where it'll go, and I'm also nervous about it. And I'm in the AI world, and I love AI, I really do. But I think once you get to AGI, especially in our modern day societies, you have to start wondering, what is the impact of this? What is going to happen? Are these people that are known to be, and not that the top, X% are the only greedy people. I don't want to come at it like that, but they want to make money.
Hmm.
Regardless of investors or anything like that, at a certain point they want to make money. So how far will they take it? I mean, you already see even on these smaller companies, they're like, oh, how much can we replace people? And what was that company you were talking about last week, Sahib, where they overinvested in AI and then had to bring people back? Do you
Oh,
remember?
Klarna. They
Yeah.
uh they over they basically let go basically all of their customer service people and just had AI. And
Yeah.
then they were not seeing the returns that they wanted, so they basically rehired a bunch of customer service people. And I mean
Hmm.
that just further touches on my point that we should be going towards human AI augmentation rather than replacement.
Yeah.
so would that be like Neuralink type of stuff?
No, it's more like basically a software developer, instead of replacing that software developer with AI, that software developer does the job of two software developers with the help of AI,
Oh, I see. I
Yeah.
see.
And
or
and
his
you could
output.
honestly, yeah, you could leverage it as like a software developer, but with kind of like a lead in that it's able to analyze things more deeply. It could be basically just the best type of assistant we've ever had, right? So it could instantly review code and the direction it's going, and based on that, it can improve it and offer advice and stuff like that. So,
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, that being said, there's a company out there that is specifically doing it's called brain on brain chip. It's that's what they refer to it as, and it's kind of blurring AI. So it's this company, I forgot the name of the company, maybe one of you guys know. But it's an organoid intelligence and wetware projects are now merging lab-grown brain cells with computers, pioneering AI built on biological neurons. Shahib, you shared this article with us. But this is like it's kind of crazy when you're reading it. This
Right.
brain on brain chip adds neuro and hints at energy efficient computing, which I'm not too sure what that is either. And it's been funded by Final Spark as well as others. And these systems are actually combining this organic matter and digital technology, and so that brings up that opens a can of worms on so many questions, such as if living neurons run on AI, does that hold any moral responsibility or ownership? How do you guys think that works?
I mean, to be honest, this is such a new thing. Like, it's, I mean, kind of like what Chris was touching on. This is like it's like a new era of philosophy, really. So, I mean, these it should have like its own like section of philosophy. This is like
Hmm.
AI based philosophy. I mean,
Yeah.
sure in I don't even know from an ethical standpoint if these neurons are just grown, they're not attached to like an actual human.
Hmm.
They're basically just a new version of organic mechanical pieces for
Yeah.
this new computer. So I'm not really sure, to be honest, if if living neurons holds or the use of living neurons has some kind of moral imperative that maybe we shouldn't use it or something. I'm not sure.
From a quick Google search, so it's saying because I was interested in the lab, what exactly is a lab-grown neuron?
Hmm.
So, and from a quick Google search, it says researchers at Northwestern University have developed the first fully mature lab-grown neurons from human-induced plur pluripotent stem cells, iPSCs, using breakthrough technique called dancing molecules. Opens up a new avenues for medical studies and possible transplantation to cure neurodegenerative diseases and severe injuries. Neurons grown in the laboratory provide a novel and highly effective tool for the analysis of the central nervous system. So it sounds like they act exactly like a regular neuron would. So I mean that's insane. Like when you're putting these two together and then you add the like AI, for instance, I mean, what does that even look like,
well,
to be
there
honest?
could mean a lot of things, but I see a lot of stuff right now on kind of the health aspect of it. You think a lot of it is they can train the AI to understand these neurons and how they're operating. And I mean, you think about that could go in a lot of directions. I mean, it really depends on what their purpose is because this could be used for health,
Mm,
I have epilepsy, right? So I have like neurons firing in different places where they're not supposed to at random times, right? That's so that kind of thing, they don't understand it. They don't know why it happens. They don't know how to fix it. Like that, it just you can't, right? Because they don't
mm,
understand enough about the brain to really target what's going on. They have enough knowledge where they can give you medicine that limits it, but it's really more like kind of putting a putting a band-aid on something, it's not fixing it, it's just covering it. Um,
Yeah.
I think this could lead to a better understanding, but it also could lead to kind of an expansion on the human brain. It's kind of like where they start directing toward AGI, I think, because you take the brain, the human brain, which is kind of what Sahib was saying earlier about a 4-year-old, right? The reason is because AI currently needs to be trained, which is why we get bias and all these other things because it's trained by humans. But this starts getting more into the realm of combining AI with the natural brain. So it can
Hmm.
start learning how a brain would operate. It can work in tandem with the brain. And I don't really, I'm no scientist, so I don't understand the deeper side of neurons and how that works in your brain either.
Hmm.
But I assume that working on this level, it'll push more towards that AGI type of world, right? And I think it could be very useful in the future as far as learning more about the brain, enhancing your brain's capabilities, and helping with you know, issues that are happening in the brain, like epilepsy. Like, so maybe it's able to identify which neurons are misfiring and what's happening, and it could possibly help rebuild pathways and stuff in your brain. There's a lot of things that this could lead to. I don't know the direction they want to take this, but I do think that combining the natural brain with the developed, technological side of things is going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I just
go
yeah,
ahead.
I was go okay, I was gonna say just if we're making these lab grown neurons and combining them with AI, I guess like are we making like human conscious, so something similar to the human conscious, and then will it become I guess aware of its own self? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I think the human body. I mean, we don't even know a lot about the human body as much as we like to think we do.
Mm,
If we did, then we would have created human life already, because you know how the world works.
Mm.
So I don't think only neurons is might be what creates consciousness. So I'm not really sure. I mean, will we get to a point where it might be something like a consciousness? Sure, maybe. But I guess that's what human-based AI is also kind of trying to achieve.
mhm.
Um, to have something think like a human. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that's what they're trying to do for sure, but yeah, might. Who knows? Still so new.
Yeah, I guess if you try to train a brain or if you train brain cells to solve problems in a case like this, is it still a computer or is it an artificial kind of thing? Is it, I mean, it's lab grown, but
For
if
sure.
you're giving it the same capabilities, I guess, of us in a sense,
Hmm.
is do we give it do we generate laws or something around that to monitor the ethicality behind that? Or I guess where does it draw the line? Like I don't
I
I mean, I think
think,
that's a whole that's for the new section of philosophy I think we should come out with
yeah,
to talk about.
I think the
yeah.
weird part is that with philosophy and, even major science it's not as respected now as it was back then. It's hard to know how your ordinary day-to-day person is going to really accept it. I think people have grown to be so, like, what would you say? Not power averse, but just so not trusting of these established, scientists and things like that. I think people are very skeptical nowadays. I think over the years being, you learn about all these really messed up things that have happened. I think modern society really has just grown to be less trusting of
Hmm.
these operations and these people. So then you do
Yep.
start wondering about this philosophy stuff. If there were modern day philosophers, do you think they'd be taken seriously? I think that's why people are so easily manipulated or quick to trust people on social media because they're like, oh, well, this is the small man, versus the big man. And I,
Yeah.
I think that people have been pushed to that point. I don't think that's people really wanted that. I think people have been pushed to this point, and that's where we're seeing such a big separation of not only, the knowledge gaps, but you see it everywhere. And it's causing a lot of issues. And I think, people don't listen to these big colleges anymore. They're like, oh, well, I understand that this is, an institution of people, like MIT, right? Those people at MIT, they are very specialized in what they're studying. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't consider that anymore. They're like they just think they're tools, right?
Hmm.
So I wonder when it gets to this point, this is why I wonder so much is we're no longer at a point where the everyday person really accepts these studies. I
Yeah.
would say it's a pretty 50-50. And a lot of it comes down to education, political viewpoints, environment, stuff like this. And I think we're just at such a large scale of our society that it's impossible to know. I think we're just at this crazy pivoting point that is going to be seeing changes like the early 20th century. I really do. I think, this is the equivalent to industrialization. I think it's going to get pushed too far at one point and then later on going to have to be reeled back. And I think that's going to take another generation or two before this is going to be broken into something that makes more sense. I just think this is going to
Hmm.
take another 20 years before anybody knows what the hell is going on in the direction it's going.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be something like, how the Industrial Revolution came up and they had basically just children working in factories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And um, so I think it's going to take a few years and then we're finally going to see some things. And then we're going to have to put in some type of regulation like they did where children are not supposed to be working. So,
Yeah.
well, yeah, like you said, I mean,
Wow.
it's new. And just like how with the Industrial Revolution, child labor took them a few years to figure out
Hmm.
that, hey, maybe children
Yeah.
should not be working and being
Right.
maimed in these machines.
Yeah.
So,
That was insane. I mean, that whole era of time, and just
yeah.
in general, was insane. I mean, you had the whole oh, the triangle, the shirt company that blew up, not blew
Yeah.
up, caught on fire. I forget the name of it. I need to go back to history class.
And that came up
Mm.
and that made them came out with safety measures
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and fire escapes, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera. So,
So it's kind of like a
Like,
trial and error
yeah.
at that point.
well, you think about some of the stuff in even the United States where we're like the forefront of any country in the world, I mean, think about it though. The 70s was when they're passing, racial equality stuff. The 70s was 50 years ago, and in the grand scheme of things, you think
Yeah.
like that was the first stage of it. It took until the 90s to really round that out, which is why there's so much anger now still, is because it's been not even 30 years. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, as a country that's at the forefront of this, and I mean, you look at other countries around the world, and I would say we still are. It's just ridiculous, that
Hmm.
we're still this new. We haven't even been able, I think bureaucracy in the United States, where I can appreciate it to some degree of, we have the freedom to do these things, and then the government eventually is
Hmm.
able to come around and regulate it. I think the bureaucracy is too slow, it's too
Hmm.
corrupt, and it takes too many years. So if they took that long, I mean, you've seen some of the congressional meetings and things like that around certain technologies and
Yeah.
applications and things like that. You can see their lack of knowledge. I mean, you see like politicians, these older politicians that are in their 70s, they don't even understand their own smartphones. Like that's a genuine thing. Or
Yeah.
they don't understand what an application is. Like, and that's not me getting political. That's a genuine thing.
Hmm.
So imagine the bureaucracy around trying to develop rules and regulations around it. It's going to take so much time um to figure it out. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Hmm.
it's crazy to think that what the US is 248 years and 11 months old.
Hmm.
somebody
Um, and
just research. Somebody
Yeah.
just
Somebody
Google
just hit
something.
that Google search.
no, I mean 1776 for
July.
48, 4.
20, 24 years, 200, 224, 25, 49. Technically 49.
Dang.
But what the July July 1776 is when the
Hmm.
Declaration of Independence was
I thought
signed.
it was, I don't even know. Let me see.
But anyways, trying to doubt my
Sorry,
math
get your
skills here.
July 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
what?
I wonder what holiday that is.
No way.
Oh right, yeah. I love how it was like, oh yeah, July was when it was signed. Oh yeah, July
Well,
4th.
there was like a
Yeah,
discussion
so
around when we won
yeah,
the what's it called and when we actually signed it.
I
So
yeah,
love how I did the
yeah,
math, but then just July 4th just escaped
yeah.
me.
But I know
that's
it's
what I was
easy too.
wondering.
I looked at it, I was like, wow, that looks really familiar, huh?
Oh my gosh. Can we
That's
cut this
funny.
out, please?
Yeah, we can cut that out.
Oh,
There's a
maybe we
bunch of
should.
people. No, I'm just messing around. I'm just messing around because I'm like these guys don't even know their own history at
Their own
all.
independent state.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jesus.
I mean, we're talking about some serious issues here.
Yeah.
It's nice to keep it a bit light.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, who knows what the future will hold. Lots of lots of advancements. We had the Industrial Revolution, then we had
Hmm.
the technological revolution where we've had astronomical growth more than the last 10 years we've seen more than the last many years. I
Yeah,
don't even know how
yeah,
many years.
yeah. It's just been exponential. I mean,
Yeah.
and you look at like so I was looking it up, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, I forgot the name of it. So
Hmm.
it took over 100 years for them to get where we are now from that disaster. And you just look at that and you look at the timeline of like where we are now. I mean, and like you said, Chris, bureaucracy is slow to come to decision. It's going to take a lot of time before we actually see what the full capability of something like this is, and it's super cool, honestly, and how like it can even help us focus on things that like matter, like humanities, or think about philosophy or different types of philosophy. And in this case, this is new, so it'd be something entirely different.
Yeah.
Definitely going to be taught in colleges, as the
Mhm.
ethics around a new
I mean,
technology.
you look at the next generation too. I mean, they're going to be born into this stuff. They're
Yeah,
going to
they
Yeah.
they
have,
they won't even know what life was like before AI. It's
yeah,
crazy.
Mhm.
yeah. Imagine not having ChatGPT. I mean, you know, I
Yeah,
mean, I
Imagine when they
people
can't,
get to
growing
our
up without
age.
ChatGPT.
right?
What
Yeah,
weirdos.
imagine those weirdos.
I just think about when they get to our age, how advanced that's going to be.
Yeah,
And I
they're
mean,
going to
you
be
look
on
at like,
some Tony
I don't
Stark
know how
type
much you've
stuff.
seen the Tesla bots, how advanced those things are. They're insanely advanced. Now, imagine they've been only under development for like what, 5 years? So imagine what those things are going to be at 20 years from now. Like they're, I think we're definitely going to have some level of, you know, bicentennial man type robots of,
Hmm.
your average household robot type thing, especially for higher end um families and stuff.
My question is, why do robots have to be humanoid? Who came up with that
That's
idea?
what I
And we
I
just
don't
ran with it.
understand that. Why do we have to make
Yeah.
it creepy?
I
Why
guess
do we
it's
have to
just
make it creepy?
familiar. I don't know. It's like familiar to us.
Yeah, but I feel like it's
Um,
pushing a dangerous line.
Really? You think that
I
if we make them humanoid, then that in turn will make them human in a sense, and we'll
well,
have to give them.
I just think that we should be careful with how well we develop these things. I'm not a big person on like, oh, iRobot and all these other
Mhm.
dystopian movies. I think people get way too Hollywoodized.
Hmm.
Um, but I do think it's kind of one of those things where because of that, people are going to be more hesitant to accept it when it's humanoid. I know it's familiar, but I do think people have watched too many movies, read too many things about it to where it's like, I'm not really a fan of that. And then we make these robots basically more advanced physically at some point than humans, and then it does actually get creepy. It's like genuinely
Yeah,
creepy. So I'd rather have my robot be kind of awkward and, this form that I'm not worried about being able to run me down at 50 miles an hour eventually.
that'd be crazy. 50 miles an hour. You'd be able to go on like the not the highway, but you could be on
I don't want
the
this thing running along like creepily. I just
like that
think
scene
a
from Out.
humanoid robot is just so strange that we're obsessed with that because it's like just like we want to
Yeah,
see ourselves in a more advanced way, I guess.
yeah,
Right.
I
yeah.
say put my brain in one of those. I'm fine with it. I don't care. I don't
Like
want
after you
cancer. I
die.
don't want to age.
That'd be interesting. I mean, like you'd actually like put somebody's brain in one of those things.
I don't know if I
And
wanted to if I want to live for forever though.
yeah, I
I
don't think
do.
so either.
I don't want to die. I'm not like that. I know a lot of people have the human thing of like, oh, it's part of humanity to die. No, I'm not like
I
that.
mean, it's
I'd
more
rather
just
watch the
like
world evolve.
it's more just like if people are living more and more and stuff when we keep having children and we're put into robots, we're eventually just gonna run out of space.
Yeah,
Well,
run
that's
out
why
of
we're going to
RAM.
Mars,
Mars.
baby.
Yeah. Send some robots up to send us some Tesla bots to Mars and they can start building for us.
Yeah, they can
In the
build
Starship with
the oxygen
Cybertrucks.
dome.
Yeah. Dude, that's gonna be crazy if we ever like go to Mars. Well, I know that there are plans to go to Mars and
Oh
but
yeah, we'll be flying people up there in 50 years,
to
guaranteed.
populate,
50
I
years
Doesn't
from
it
mean,
take
now.
years to get there? And it would be like a one-way trip anyways?
Yeah, but you think there's not people that want to fly to Mars and be part of the like pioneers of Mars and then eventually rise up against the Earth people?
dude, imagine.
Mars v Earth.
Dude, you know that they're gonna be like America versus Britain. Like, oh, you're a satellite of us, but then eventually they're gonna be like, wait a second, you can't tell us what to do. It
Yeah,
would
I
take
mean
you 4 years to get here. We know this land now.
before we start populating any other planets, I think we got to worry about ours, what we got on our plates right now.
Yeah, we gotta
Hey,
solve our own
no, let
issues.
us run away.
Yeah.
No, I think
You
Earth
ever hear
is like
about that
it's too beautiful to want to leave, man.
Yeah, I
you ever hear
agree.
about that story where like or that theory that that we were actually on Mars and we destroyed it so we came to Earth?
Facts. I believe it.
Really?
100%. It
I
happened.
thought no, that was the moon, where the moon was
It just
a
nuked. We
piece
just
of
nuked the hell out of Mars. That's what happened.
Well,
100%.
the moon was created because an asteroid hit the Earth and created the
uh-huh,
moon.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Um,
broke a piece off the Earth, yeah.
yeah, but anyways,
Mars,
getting away
go.
from the the sci-fi. What's this I hear
We're
about
basically
Ireland?
philosophers, guys.
Yeah, for real.
What's this I hear about Ireland?
So Ireland and Manchester, they're piloting actually UBI, which is stands for Universal Basic Income. It essentially means that people are getting a steady amount of money from their government, to work, I guess, not work, and whether examining whether the cash empowers innovation or discourages work, and also if it helps with homelessness, and I guess like the social services and all of that. And so it's just experimenting with the amount of money, this UBI, with these countries like, or with these places, Ireland and Manchester. Specifically, Ireland is giving a 325 pound weekly stipend for 2,000 artists ending in August. And then Manchester and Wales are launching or wrapping up UBI pilots of 1,600 pounds a month, adding real world data to theoretical debates. And so I guess the question here, when it comes to like if this ends up working out, what broader lessons can be drawn from these local UBI tests?
So I kind of want to touch on a certain industry that I think would be a very interesting one to analyze. If you, especially if you're wondering how productive are people going to, want to be productive or not with UBI, I think the best industry to look at would be farming because farming is difficult to sell. There's so much work. You're waking up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. It's just such a difficult thing to do. So what are farmers, especially in small towns who tend to be kind of technology adverse? I mean, obviously large scale farmers and, a lot of the modern ones do tend to accept like modern technology, but no matter what, they're kind of hesitant. I think, and I grew up in a farm town, so that's why I kind of think of these things. Um, I think if you're telling a farmer, I'm going to give you X amount of money, regardless of whether you do work or not, do you think they're gonna continue waking up at 4 a.m. and producing food and all this other stuff? Or do you think they're gonna say, "Oh, I'm gonna do something I want to do. I'm gonna paint." Like art is a very important thing, right? But at the end of the day, survival is not based on art. Society doesn't
Mhm.
run on art,
Yeah.
And I think if you're testing if people are going to work or not, you've got to test an industry where it's vital to survival or like more important to the day-to-day operations of society because I just think that like okay, a farmer's going to produce food, so are we going to be able to have people producing food when there's universal income, or are these people going to be, oh yeah, we have this money, we love farming, so we're going to keep doing farming and we're going to make farming better, you know?
Well, I mean, I'm
Mhm.
sure I'm sure there's like something where some stipulation where you have to show you're working and actually have to produce something to keep getting that UBI, right? So,
Mhm.
Okay,
um,
yeah.
I mean, I
Also,
don't think we're
like,
just gonna just give the money out
yeah.
and not expect them to do something.
Also, it could
Good
just
point.
be a baseline. It could be like they could potentially like, oh, they get this 1,600 a month on top of what they're already earning. So maybe that incentivizes you to keep working if you're still getting money from what you're doing. So like in a farmer's case, if he gets like 1,600 a month, but he still has to like sell crop and stuff to like be profitable, he could just get that 1,600. But I don't, I think the idea of UBI is that it completely erases, um I gotta look it up. It's like you would that's all you would get kind of thing.
I mean,
Okay, so
technically,
say.
I mean, if we're talking about AI replacing jobs, then we're technically gonna, if there's no jobs for people to have, we're technically gonna be giving the money to them anyways, for not essentially doing anything.
But
Um,
where does this money come from to go into UBI?
The government and taxes probably, or like some sort of
I mean, that's kind of
So
tax.
what we touched on earlier, AI generated wealth, right? So I don't
Yeah.
know.
yeah, but that means you're gonna have to run taxes. And if this UBI, the whole point of it would be kind of to close poverty gaps and stuff like that. You know, you would have to look at percents of income and stuff like that because I don't think I like what you're saying that it's not going to completely replace all income, but I think it's a weird thing to get into because especially as like, we're in America. We've been trained our whole lives on capitalism and how that works, and it's a, merit based, and you're supposed to blah blah blah, right? Like you pursue higher things, you make more money, and you know, whatever. So we're so used to that it's hard for us to understand how UBI is working, where that money's coming from. Because to me, when you say like, okay, we're going to try to close, the UBI is going to try to close poverty gaps and stuff like that. So does that mean we're going to tax rich people more, right? The richest people, or like as it, as we cascade, and then you're kind of evening that, which kind of gets into like socialism and stuff like that. And we say socialism and it's like a buzzword, right? And it's whatever. I'm not going to get into that either. But
Hmm.
where does the money come from? So, and it's weird because, like you said, with AI, it's not like the common argument of, oh, well, then people would stop working because these jobs are already being replaced.
Yeah,
So
there's
then
no
I
jobs
guess
for
it's
them to
not,
do.
yeah. So then it's not as, it's still kind of different than socialism and stuff like that. So, um,
I mean,
I
it's like
just
an
don't
ethical imperative, right?
understand. Yeah, it's just I think you have to and you have to tax the people that are making the most more. And I think that kind of makes sense. But that's kind of a hot topic that, I just think with AI replacing jobs is a little different of a conversation than what it's been in the past. So
I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I don't want to get too political, but I don't think somebody should be able to be worth $250 billion without using that money to do something good. You have all
yeah.
these billionaires that are just hoarding wealth and just not doing anything with it. Um, and what's the point? I mean,
Yeah.
what's the point of that money to kind of just show off and be like, "Hey, I have this money. Okay, cool. What else? What are you doing with it?"
Yeah. What else? Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Well,
going
it's like,
to Fiji. Okay, cool.
you
That's
know,
like $20,000. Great. What are you doing with with the rest of your money?
that's what like I was talking about this with a friend the other day, right? He got kind of like this old boat that he bought, and it was, it's so exciting for someone at like that level of income, right? It's like, oh, I got this boat. It could be the most shoddy boat, right? It was dented, it was whatever, right? Like, but that was such a big deal. And then you look at these guys, it was like, oh, I have a yacht that supplies my yacht that supplies another yacht. And it's, like, why is it that we're extremely excited to have these, a little fishing boat, and that's like a huge excitement thing. And these guys are got 8 yachts, and if we had one of these people get on a yacht, they would think it's world changing. I was talking to someone yesterday that was talking about, oh, they, got on, they're like, she's a cleaning lady for private jets. And she's just like awestruck by private jets. But these guys have like multiple private jets, and it's like a regular thing for them. So the fact that it's a completely different world that they live in. I just think that it causes anger, and it causes a lot of, it's just kind of, it definitely is dystopian in my eyes of
Hmm.
like, this
Hmm.
should, you're not contributing to society after a certain point. Like Jeff
Hmm.
Bezos, you created these things that, yeah, they are good, and you've done investing in a lot of good things, and it's helped society get to where it is on some things. Sure, I will give that to you, and I can appreciate that. People that work to get their money, I am fully cool with it. I understand. But if you're at that point, you have to do some type of reflection. You have to. And then when
Hmm.
someone says, okay, we're going to tax you an extra 10%, and you're like, okay, well, I'll just find more workarounds for this, more loopholes. Well, that's just shitty because you're just saying, I don't care about everybody else. I care about me. Yeah, sure, I've got another 20 years left in my life, but screw everybody else. Like, I don't care.
Remember when Bezos had to have like bridges taken down to get his super yacht out of the
No
whatever?
way.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's ridiculous, dude. It's ridiculous. And I'm not like,
These like
again,
historical bridges.
No
I'm
way.
not against rich people. I don't, I'm not one of the people that's like, oh, all the rich people should die. I
Well, I
just
mean,
think
yeah,
that
just
when
like
you're,
sure, 50 million, awesome. Great.
yeah,
Cool. But 250 billion? You know how long it would take you to spend that much? A very long
exactly.
time.
Just, and then they're like, oh, well, I donated to XYZ. But I know for a fact you didn't donate it because you care about it. You donated because you write it off on your taxes. Oh, I gave $250,000. Okay, well, now I'm writing it off on my taxes, so I don't have to worry about all these other things that I would have been taxed on.
But anyways, bringing this back to artificial intelligence.
Yeah,
Um, I think that once we get to AGI, this like wealth gap, wealth disparity will just increase. Um, and without people having any real job to even like fall back on or do, we're definitely going to need to do something. We can't just have people in the streets, millions and millions of people who are now left without a job. Um, and obviously, I think that it doesn't have to be that way, but with what I've seen and what I've seen with how many of these companies are okay with trying to do anything with the level of AI that we have to replace jobs, I think that it's going to happen because people love money and are shitty, and just that's just the way they work and how they love to help their investors and stuff like that. So yeah, I think we're gonna have to do AGI because that's just I
I
think
just
how society works and what we're gonna have to do.
AI is not a people replacer. And
It's
and I
not. It's just
understand
people. It's
it's
people replacing people, not AI. It's a tool.
yeah, and there's going to be people that are against using AI, and those are the people that will probably be looking at losing their jobs.
Hmm.
And that sucks, but if you're in a world, if you're in a company that is trying to invest in AI to support your job and help you be more efficient, that you're obviously in that world where they expect you to evolve, and that's just the reality of things. And I think AI is a good thing. And I think there just needs to be regulation, to avoid this. And I'm with you though. I think no matter what, we're going to get to a world of AGI. And it's like I've said, it's going to be right now, it's scary to think about because we just don't know. And a lot of these regulations, they evolve with the technology. So, you know, maybe these companies will adopt certain regulations and stuff like that. And right now, the reality is companies are moving faster with regulations than the government is. Whether that's EV charging, where they're now on a standard, or AI, where they have, what's it called? What is it, MCP?
Yep.
Those are protocols put in place that companies agree on. Like these aren't government mandated things. So, will protocols like this exist as we move forward? Because a big thing we're taught in school now, right, is the social governance of things. Because at the end of the day, we're in a society now where the social side of it, people hold companies responsible to some level. And these companies, they want to make money, so they're going to be very conscious of how their company is taken by the public. Because we live in a world where the public will say, well, screw you. I'm using a different company. I'm doing a different thing. So maybe they will understand that and they will be held accountable um, by the people, if you will.
With that being said, thanks for tuning into Tech for Thought. If you enjoyed today's episode or found it insightful, please follow, rate, and share with anyone curious about the future of AI work in society, just in general. For full show note links, check out our link tree. Follow all our socials on there. We got YouTube, Instagram, and we got some cool. If you guys want to be a monthly supporter, we put that in there as well. But yeah, thanks so much for watching the video, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.